Hello. Today I'm going to be working on Ranger cookies. I've made some before and I think it's a good addition to the holidays or birthday parties or as gifts. They're pretty crispy and they have a lot of nice flavor. So I want to talk about the ingredients that I'm going to be using. So my wet ingredients, I'm going to take a shortening because it has a butter flavor and it makes for a crispy cookie. So I'm going to add into the shortening a cup of the white sugar and then a cup of brown sugar. After I cream the sugars with the shortening, then I will be adding a teaspoon of vanilla and 2 eggs. I'll probably have the vanilla going into the eggs and then mix them up some. With regard to the dry ingredients, I have I'm going to use 2 cups of flour, and I'm going to be using 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda. I've tried this recipe with 1 teaspoon and it was a bit too much. I could taste the flavor. I'm going to add a 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder and probably 3/4 or 1/2 teaspoon of salt. When I get these dry ingredients together, then I will slowly add them into the mixture, into the wet ingredients. And once I make that cookie dough, it's a basic cookie dough that will be sweet. It will have eggs and shortening and then the flour and the dry ingredients. Then when I get the cookie dough together and it's all blended well, I'll start on the next phase. So in the next phase, there's some choices I wanted to show you first. So there are things like Quaker oats. There's the quick minute version, and then that's probably the best to add. And you can use Rice Krispies or cornflakes. And I found this honey and nut cornflake that has granola, and I thought, hey, that sounds like that would be good, especially in a crunchy cookie. You can add or not add if you don't want nuts in there. You can add either walnuts or pecans. Then we have coconut, and again, this will be a cup of coconut that's going to go in there. And if you don't like coconut, just use something else. Here's some choices. You can add white chocolate chips in there. There's butterscotch chips, and then one of my favorites is the semi-sweet morsels chocolate chips. So I'm going to add probably about a 1/2 cup of probably 1 or 2 of these. So I may make 1 batch of the cookie dough and separate half, and 1/2 may have these morsels in it. And maybe I can make that without coconut, and then I can make the second half with different items in it. The other things I'll occasionally add is the occasional raisin or dried cranberries. These are just some of the examples of things that can go in there. The cookie's going to be pretty crunchy and tasty. So you decide what you like in your cookies. So I'm adding some of the sugar to the butter flavored shortening. And you can add less sugar if you want. So I'm having my brown sugar in there too. So a cup of each, or less if you like less sweet. That's fine, because if you're going to add chocolate chips or white chocolate, that's going to also be very sweet. So if you want to cut down on the sugar, you can add 3/4. After I incorporate the sugar into the butter flavor shortening really well, then I will add my eggs. So I'm going to add the vanilla into these eggs first, a teaspoon of vanilla. So I have my teaspoon of vanilla in my eggs. I'm going to be adding these until everything gets incorporated. Then I'll be working on my dry ingredients. So it doesn't take very long for my oven to start So I waited until I was halfway done in the process. So I'm setting it for 350 degrees, and I have my parchment paper on my baking cookie sheets. So this is my 2 cups of flour, and notice I have the half teaspoon size, and then I have the full teaspoon size, and I tried to follow, I looked up different recipes, but I just feel like the flavor was too much if I added too much of the baking soda or salt. So I'm going to use half of a teaspoon for that. So a half teaspoon of each of these. All right, so here I'm getting my half a teaspoon of baking powder. So I'm going to mix that in a little bit. So this is a nice little spoon. And once I took dry the vanilla off of it, then I could use it for my dry ingredients. So I put half a teaspoon inside my hand to see about how much that would be. Sometimes when I first start a recipe, I measure things, and when I do it again in the future several times, I don't need to measure. I can tell how much I have in my hand. So anyway, I'm going to combine these, and I'm going to slowly incorporate into the wet ingredients. This already has the egg, the vanilla, 2 kinds of sugar, and butter flavor shortening. You can use butter or plain shortening if you want, or whatever, if you find an alternative. Add a little bit at a time, let it get incorporated. I'm going to stop this and also scrape the sides to make sure I get all of the batter with my handy dandy little rubber spatula. Still slowly incorporating the dry ingredients into the wet ingredients. And once I have this cookie dough, I can separate it into 2 halves, and the rest of it I'm going to do sitting down. So at this point, I'm just taking off the batter. Make sure it's all in the bowl. So I've already added my dry ingredients. That was baking soda and flour. And I did add some salt into the flour, half a teaspoon of salt. So now I'm just going to take this batter and decide what I want to add. And of course, you can do half of a batter and do half and half of different ingredients. So I'm just going to go ahead and do 1 whole batter and add whatever I want, probably some of everything. So this will be the fun part, and especially, you know, if kids are helping you. So we're done with making the basic cookie dough, and now we're going to add whatever we think we like to have in our cookies. So I'm going to use a cup of oatmeal, probably 2 cups of a crunchy cereal. You can do Rice Krispies or anything. Then I'm going to probably do a half cup of the rest of the items. My coconut, I might be able to get a whole cup out of here. I did last time, and I like coconut. A lot of people I know do, but if you don't want coconut, you don't have to have it. The cookie will still be crisp, but it adds a good flavor. It gets pretty crispy with all these items. So you can add that to your bowl, whatever you want, add it to your bowl that contains your cookie dough. So here I'm adding a handful of raisins and some cranberries. I don't want these to overpower the cookie. So here I'm breaking up my walnut halves, and again, this is something if you have walnut halves, you want to break them so that they're nice sized pieces, but not too large. This is a good job for one of the kiddos to do. And as you repeat this cookie recipe, you'll get faster at it too, is what I've noticed. So I'm doing about a half a cup of different nuts. I think today I'm just going to use pecans. I take that back. I'm not going to do walnuts in here today. So I'm adding 2 cups of oats. I'm going to be stirring this in a little bit. So 2 cups of a crispy cereal, and I chose the cornflakes with granola. They're sweet also, so that's another reason if you choose not to use too much sugar. Now at this point, I am happy with the ingredients that I have. I haven't added any chocolate chips or coconut. So this is where, you know, you can stop and take, after you mix this up, you can take half of the mixture out and make half with coconut and half without. So I'm just gently folding things in here. In a little bit, I'll be using a spoon to make small cookie dough balls from this. I just want to let the younger cooks know that if you want to take part of this dough out and put it in another container, right, then you can choose to add coconut or not add coconut. You can choose to add your favorite morsels, or if you just want to do the easy way, just dump everything together. But sometimes people who have allergies can't have nuts. So I'm just reminding those younger people. Alrighty, so I'm going to mix this up, and I'm adding my chips next and coconut. 1 cup of coconut. So I'm adding my 1 cup of coconut in. And yes, the rest of this will be handled by hand. So again, this is where the more hands you have on board to help you in the kitchen, the better. I'm adding some butterscotch morsels. So this will be about half of a cup or less. If I'm adding more than one kind of sweetener, then I may do 1/4 a cup of one, 1/4 a cup of another, and 1/4 a cup. That way it doesn't overwhelm the cookie. But if I'm just doing one, then I would probably put about half a cup of one kind of chip, whatever it is. You know, the last time I used mainly chocolate semi-sweet chips, and it came out really good, really good cookie. So yes, I'm been incorporating all the ingredients using my hands. Make sure this gets mixed up really well. And if you look at your cookie dough and you decide you want to add something else to it, you know, now's the time. I think it has lots of ingredients in there with pecans and coconut. Mine has some cranberries and dried cranberries and raisins. And I have the white chocolate and butterscotch. So once I get this all mixed up, then I'm going to make small balls using a spoon, and then I'm going to try to set them on the cookie sheet. So all you have to do is get some of that and squish it together. I have to resist eating this because I remember it has raw egg. Raw egg could carry something bad in it, so I don't eat raw dough, especially if I know it has egg in it. Alrighty, so I'm going to start to put these on my cookie sheet, and I'll be right back. So I'm getting my cookies out. Just be able to crush them. Lots of little hands will help you here. Make it into a ball and then put it there. Okay. So I have some cookies that I'm almost going to be putting in the oven. So I've got one more here. And so what I'm going to do, out of experience, before I put them into the oven, I will come around with a small jar and just flatten them out a little bit. Okay, the cookies don't spread out all over the paper. They spread just a little bit, but I've had good results if I just take the back of a cup or a glass and just push them down, and they'll come out fine. Okay, let me get one more done, and then these will be going into the oven. Okay. Alrighty, so I'm going to put these into the oven. And here's a couple of the previous ones that I made. These have different ingredients than the other batch. And the oven is at 350. I remember that I put these in and let them stay in for about 12 minutes to see if they were golden brown. Okay, so I'm going to set my timer for 12 minutes. I'm okay if they go a minute past or 2 minutes past to make them golden brown, crispy. Okay, so far it's 14 minutes. So I've got some other ones waiting in line. This will go in next. So I've got, let's see, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. And 3 times more, so 17 plus 12. Okay, so it looks like I'm going to have 29 good-sized cookies. All right, so I let them stay in there close to 15 minutes. And I'm putting the second batch in. Now, if you want to make smaller cookies, you can. But when I eat a good cookie and it's small, it doesn't make me mad. So I want big cookies. And remember that the ingredients that I used was about 1/4 of a cup of the chip morsels and less than 1/4 of a cup of the nuts, so that you can have enough cookie dough. So it comes out looking like this before you bake them. Then I'm going to smash these down and put them on the next wave. Alrighty, I'm going to try one of these in a minute as it cool down. Part of the reason I like this recipe is I don't really use a whole lot of equipment. So and then I've got the cup and a teaspoon. So not too much of a mess. Waiting for my second batch to bake. I'm going to let these soak with some soap so it makes for easier cleaning later. Just for the younger people out there. So when I have something open, I like to mark the bags and save things in Ziploc bags, storage Ziploc bags, so that I can use them again later and they maintain some freshness. I'm going to put each one of these in one of these bags. Again, young people that may be watching this. So it's a good thing that we can, I'm going to refrigerate these. These I can leave out on the counter when I use them more. Alrighty, and then I'm going to put my all-purpose flour away in a plastic container to hold that, so I don't get little weevils in there. So I finished cleaning, and I will be coming to take a look at these other batch of cookies. Okay, so I found that I could leave them in there 15 minutes and get a crispy cookie. So, really good. Okay, I need milk. Crunchy. A little bit of the softness, but mainly it's a crunchy cookie. Okay, so I'm just getting these out of the oven, and you can see that was the first batch. Yes, this is the one I was eating. Good cookie. I left these in there for 16 minutes. These were 15 minutes. I have a little bit more to go. These are not baked yet. I'm believing that if I wanted to, I could freeze these and then bake them at a later time. And remember, if you're doing this for a fundraiser, you need to mark whatever cookies you're selling. If they have nuts in them or coconut or something, you need to put a sign. And if you're a young person, like my students were, whoever bakes, you need to have your mom's place or whoever's kitchen you're using, grandma's or your dad's place, cleaned up. All right, I'm going to go back to eating cookies and getting my milk with cookies. Yay. This is a really good cookie. Thanks for watching.